Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today is June 30th, 2022. The name of my channel is Panda and History. It's never enough about history. As the US is putting more and more emphasis on the Asia-Pacific region, a lot of the geopolitical issues and policies can't be right without understanding Asians' culture and history. More and more, I feel history is not only about the dates and facts, it's more about philosophy. China has thousands of years of written history through many dynasties. Change of those dynasties were driven by bloody wars, and that history has inevitably ingrained many philosophies into Chinese culture and people. Looking back at the Russian-Ukraine war, the campaign of Mariupol was very impressive. The Azovstal steel plant was considered the strongest fortress on earth. It covers 4 square miles on the ground and 6 stories of tunnels and bunkers on the ground. Designed to withstand nuclear attacks, the underground part, including tens of miles of tunnels, separate electric generators, water and air systems. Only after 82 days of tough urban battles, the more than 1,700 Ukrainian soldiers, and among them the controversial Azov battalion, ran out of food and ammunition and surrendered to the Russian troops according to the order of Ukraine military commander. The Russians finally seized the whole city of Mariupol. The Russians want to show the victory to the world and invited the state media to go down into the bunkers. The reporters were showing what the life was like for the Ukrainian soldiers. One item has come to the reporters' attention. It is a book with Chinese characters on the cover. This is indeed a Chinese book written by author Suntzu, who lived more than 2,000 years ago. The name of the book is Art of War, and the author was living in warring state period where countries fight against each other day in and day out. After seeing this news, the Chinese netizens were really amused and claimed that the reason why the Azovstal plant can be held for so long is due to the reading of the book Art of War and the use of the strategies in the book. Putting jokes aside, this book is widely taught in military academies around the world, including West Point. There are 13 chapters in the Art of War, written in very terse ancient Chinese. Fortunately, I understand this language, and some translations in English are not really accurate, and much of the meaning and philosophies has lost in translation. In the Russia-Ukraine war, this book is not only used by Ukrainians, it is also very popular in Russia. The former Russian president Medvedev used it to explain Russia's stance in this special military operation to prevent a possible attack by enemies on Russia and save people on the Donbass region. In Suntzu's words, the rules of warfare are not to rely on the fact that the enemy will not come, but to rely on what I can meet him with. Not relying on him not to attack, but relying on me to make it impossible for him to attack. It seems that both sides really think the book is useful for the war. However, if we look through the lens of the Art of War into Russian-Ukraine war, it is so obvious that commanders in this war have not really understood it. I will pick the most relevant sections and explain what the meaning of it. At the end of this video, I will make predictions of who will be the winner of this war based on the theories in this book. So please stay tuned. Let's go into the book and follow the wisdom of this great general, military strategist, and the philosopher. What is written in the first sentence of the first chapter is a big warning. Suntzu said, "The art of war is of vital importance to the state. It is a matter of life and death, a road either to safety or to ruin. Hence, it is a subject that needs to be carefully examined and understood." This sentence is to warn us The warfare is a very serious matter. It should never be started without careful and thorough investigation. Let's look at Ukraine today. After the war began 4 months, so many cities were destroyed and so many lives lost and families broken. Tens of millions of people displaced from their homes. It's indeed life and death, existence or destruction. What was the Russian ask at the beginning of the war? As a small nation, has Ukraine really considered all the options, including political solutions? Is going to war the only option? As a nation, you should not be afraid of war and be prepared for wars, but should be really cautious to go into war and try your best to avoid the war. This is not strategy. This is a philosophy. This is the best culture and history that the Chinese offer to this world. In the third chapter, War Strategies, Suntzu claimed that an army that can win all the wars and conquer all your enemies are not the best army. The best army can break the enemy's resistance without a war. Wars are the method to achieve peace, but not the purpose of it. According to the latest news, the NATO Alliance Chief Stoltenberg has announced the expansion of its rapid reaction troop in Europe from 40,000 to 300,000. NATO also included Korea and Japan in its conferences in an effort to expand NATO's reach from Europe to Asia Pacific. NATO may be able to win 100 wars, but is this a better way for the world than economy and trade? Let's not live in the shadow of nuclear Cold War again. Also in the third chapter, Sun Tzu claimed the highest form of war is to use strategy, and the next best is to cut the relationship of your enemy with other states. The next in order is to attack the enemy's army in the fields. And the worst form of war of all is to besiege and attack cities when there is no other ways. It is so sad that strategy, diplomacy, politics have all failed, and we end up in the bloody urban battle in Ukraine, the worst form of war which brought to the maximum destruction. The politicians of Ukraine, the politicians of Europe, US and Russia all failed the Ukraine people. In the second chapter, Fighting Wars, Sun Tzu dictates, throughout the history, there is not a single nation that has gone into long wars can still have good economy. The Second World War lasted decades in Europe, and it really weakens the economy in European nations, allowing US to become the strongest nation. In the past decades, US has carried so many wars around the world and spent trillions in the Middle East and Afghanistan. I would be surprised if US can defy this principle. In the fourth chapter, Tactical Disposition, Sun Tzu said, the good fighter of all days first put themselves beyond the possibility of defeat and then waited for an opportunity to defeat the enemy. To secure ourselves against the defeat lies in our own hands, but the opportunity of defeating the enemy is provided by the enemy himself. That's why so many nations are trying so hard to do arms race and get the nuclear weapon. As nuclear superpowers, both Russia and US have the ability to destroy the whole earth and humankind. That's why US would not send troops to the Ukraine war, fear for the nuclear World War III. Russia has already put itself into an undefeatable position. How can Ukraine or the NATO win in this war if Americans did not put the boots in Ukraine? In the beginning of this video, I promised to make a prediction of the outcome of Ukraine war based on theory of art of war. Before that, I must claim that I hold a neutral stance in this war, and I am against all wars for the reasons stated above. To understand who will win the war, you need to first understand the deciding factors of a war. In his first chapter, Overall Strategy, Suntzu laid out the 5 deciding factors of the war. Suntzu said, the first deciding factor of war is Tao. The second is weather and time. Third is geography. Fourth is commander. Last is method and discipline. The first factor, Tao, is the purpose and the course of the war. An army can't fight without a course. Putin announced this invasion as a special military operation in response to the expansion of NATO and the neo-Nazis in Ukraine. The Tao for Ukrainians is that they are protecting their homes from invasion. Ukrainians tries to join NATO to avoid a war, but unfortunately it actually resulted in a war. According to Zelensky, NATO only provided 1/10 of the weapons Ukrainian needed to win the war. It's clear Ukraine doesn't have the resources itself to win the war, and it relies 100% on foreign aid. This is putting Ukrainians' fate into other people's hands, which is not wise. We say Ukraine ties the Russia with the first factor Tao, then it really lags behind for the second and third factors, weather, time, and the geography. For the time, economic sanctions from US doesn't seem to take effect on Russia, as Russia is a big nation of fossil fuel and food production, which is basic necessities that is hard to block. It seems Zelensky is very clear about the consequences of the war dragging into the winter season, and that's why he's calling to end this war before winter comes. Remember, the Russians have won the Second World War because of the cold winter. The winter of 2022 in Europe would be extremely cold without Russia's natural gas. And Biden will be fully occupied by Democratic Party midterm election. For the geography, Ukraine is a small nation bordering a big nation that has second strongest army on earth. The best strategy is to stay neutral and maintain the balance on both sides. Trying to transform your own country into a Cold War frontier isn't wise. I know many people has predicted Moscow will fail this war based on its terrible performance in the first month. But according to the wisdom of Suntzu, the nuclear superpower Russia has already put itself into an undefeatable position. When the winter comes, the Justice Alliance behind the Ukrainians will fall apart. Without external support, Ukrainians will lose the war and some of its land permanently. At the end, let me repeat the warnings from Suntzu. 孙子曰：兵者，国之大事，死生之地，存亡之道，不可不察也。Thank you for watching this video all the way to the end. If you agree with me or disagree with me, please post your questions in the comments. Feel free to subscribe, and your support will encourage me to make more videos. Thank you.